We're continuing in the process of simplifying algebraic expressions, and we have worked with combining like terms, and now we're going to do some multiplication, and we're going to look at mainly the distributive property. Now, you do not have to have like terms to multiply. When you want to multiply, if you have 2 times 3x, that just means 2 of those 3 x's, so it's 6x. You can multiply them even though they're not like terms. If you have negative 4 times 7y, multiply negative 28y. Now, there's something we're going to look at that's going to be real important and be revisited often. It's called the distributive property. The distributive property says that you can distribute or hand out multiplication over either addition or subtraction. So let me give you some examples. You don't usually use the distributive property when all you have are numbers, but you could if you had 2 times 5 plus 3. Now, good old Aunt Sally would tell you to do what's in parentheses first. 5 plus 3 is 8, and 2 times 8 is 16. That is the way I would do that, simplify that expression. But you could do something we're about to visit called the distributive property. The distributive property says if you're supposed to multiply by 2, you can distribute it or hand it out. This is equal to 2 times 5 plus 2 times 3. In other words, 2 times 5 is 10 plus 2 times 3 is 6. That gives me 16. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, well, this method with the distributive property is much lengthier than just doing what Aunt Sally said to do. Why would I choose it? Well, you wouldn't in that case. But what if I had the following? What if I had 2 times 5x plus 3? Now, in this case, we can't do Aunt Sally's method because I can't add a 5x and a 3. They're not like terms. So am I stuck? Can I not get rid of those parentheses? No, I can. I can distribute. And I'm not going to write everything out. 2 times 5x will give me 10x. 2 times positive 3 will give me positive 6. From now on, when I say positive, I'm going to write a plus. When I say negative, I'm going to write a minus. But this is the product of those. And that is the distributive property. We use it when there are variables. All right, let's take a look at some problems. And we're going to use the distributive property, and it will help us simplify. All right, number 1, it says to multiply. Well, each time I do this, I'm going to see those little arrows in my mind. 7 times n gives me 7n. 7 times positive 1 gives me positive 7. Those aren't like terms. I can't do anything else. That's the most that I can do. All right, let's look at another one. I need to multiply, so I will distribute. 3 times a gives me 3a. 3 times negative 4. I know you may be thinking of that as subtraction, but now I'm going to start calling it negative. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 12. The distributive property uses your multiplication rules. Signs alike, positive, signs different, negative. Let's look at number 3. Distributive property. 3 times a is 3a. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Not like terms. Done. Next, now this time, for the first time, I'm distributing a negative, so I have to be a little more careful with my signs. Negative 3 times 6n is negative 18n. Negative 3 times positive 8 is negative 24. You notice that when I say negative, it looks like it's a subtraction. That's because it can have both meanings. And I didn't mention this earlier, I will now. I am sure that I'm supposed to multiply because the 2 is nestled right up to the parentheses with no symbol. So it is implied multiplication, and I'm going to need to use the distributive property. Negative 2 times 7q is negative 14q. Negative 2 times positive 5 is negative 10. And I'm done. So I've been practicing the distributive property. You have to be careful with your signs. Use your rules for multiplying signs.